afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our 9 Let's Talk About webinar. I'm Rachel Obrike, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Program Lead here at Innovate UK. And it's my honor to introduce our host for today, Dr. Ifeyinwa Kanu. Dr. Ifeyinwa Kanu is the founder of Intellidigest Limited. She loves nature and is passionate about creating engineering solutions to address environmental challenges. Ifeyinwa has a PhD in civil environmental engineering, involving application of artificial intelligence and omics analysis to optimize anaerobic processes. Ifeyinwa has filed patents on a novel anaerobic process and a novel municipal water waste treatment process for resource recovery. She has also raised series of grant funding as well as executing RBS back-her business crowdfunding successfully. She has led Intellidigest to win various awards demonstrating the impact of their solutions such as EIT Climate KIC, EIT FAN, Royal Academy of Engineering, Royal Society of Edinburgh, to list a few. In 2017, she was nominated for Women's Engineering Society West Top 50 Women in Engineering under 35 in the UK. And in 2020, she was nominated again for West Top 50 Women in Engineering, and this time it was on sustainability. Alongside our panelists, Ifeyinwa will be discussing how to find the right talent. And without taking much time, I'd like to hand over and welcome Dr. Ifeyinwa Kanu. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for that introduction. I'm completely humbled at that. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. And I'm so pleased to share this floor with amazing ladies who have been doing extraordinary activities in the different field and actually, making a change in the different sectors they work in. So I'm very much pleased to introduce you to Doris Sanders. So Doris Sanders is the founder of Total Control Pro Limited, a data sharing system helping to streamline small business manufacturing processes. Total Control Pro is on a mission to empower global manufacturing and unleash its full potential. Started in 2013 as legacy-based manufacturing software, they quickly determined that cloud-based solutions were the most effective way of reaching all manufacturers, not just the large OEMs. And today, they are fully cloud-based. They've synchronized manufacturing software suite that offers both affordability, accessibility, and adaptability to the manufacturing industry to develop as well as to deliver real-time information to those making data-driven decisions. In 2019, Dolores was announced as a Women Innovation Award winner and has recently been announced as a winner of the Business Inspirational Women Awards. What an amazing feat to have achieved. And I'm also pleased to introduce you to Clare. Clare joined the Compound Semiconductor Applications Catapult in November 2018. After graduating as a French teacher, Clare made a move to HR back in 2004. Clare is a chartered fellow of the CIPD and is passionate about promoting a healthy workplace for all employees. She has worked to support mental health and well-being in the workplace. She has implemented award-winning programs. One of Clare's aims for the Catapult is to help build a pipeline of talent for STEM careers. Clare's background in education and skill development has allowed her to create an innovative people strategy for the Catapult, ensuring that professional development for staff is at the forefront of our work. Since Clare joined the Catapult, the HR team has grown the organization from 3 to 90 talented and skilled employees. in just over 2 years of business. In her spare time, Clare is also a WI advisor and was chair of the Women's Institute Home Economics and Craft Committee. Well done, Clare, for that outstanding achievement. Really, really impressive. And then I will move on to Sarah Henley. Sarah Henley is a co-founder and COO of Next Up Comedy, a streaming platform for live comedy. Next Up launched 4 years ago with the aim of showcasing the UK's incredible wealth of comedy talent to a global audience. While in lockdown, they have run 4 live digital comedy festivals. That's amazing. Including most recently bringing the UK's largest comedy festival, Leicester, to homes worldwide. That's terrific within lockdown. Next Up features recorded specials from over 200 comedians and prides itself on showcasing a diverse range of rising stars alongside industry stalwarts. Sarah has recently been selected alongside 10 other women founders from across Europe to take part in the Google for Startups Women Founders Accelerator. Prior to Next Up, Sarah, a qualified trainer and master practitioner of NLP, worked as a freelance coach and trainer both in the arts and language and large corporations, as well as a theater writer and producer. Additionally, having originally trained in law, she has worked in structured financial products at Citibank and international arbitration at blue chip law firm Winner Hill. With her fellow co-founders, Dan and Kenny, Sarah ran a monthly variety comedy night based in Hoxton, recommended by Grazier, Time Out, and The Guardian, as well as the accompanying YouTube channel, Comedy, which is where her passion for comedy and the idea for Next Up was born. Outside of the Next Up, Sarah runs Bonds Nights, a not-for-profit organization which seeks to champion and create opportunities for diverse playwrights who identify as women. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. And thank you, Claire and Doris, very amazing profiles here. And to really take us on this journey, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about myself and my journey in terms of being the founder and director of Intelligent Digest. I think when we talk about sourcing talent, I'm actually a unique example in the sense that I started my background in civil and environmental engineering, in civil engineering precisely, looking at reinforced concrete structures and steel structures. And then my first job was in a dredging company, and that really gave me an insight to most of the environmental issues we have in our society. That took me on a different journey from wanting to build skyscrapers to wanting to really use my skills and my knowledge to solve the environmental issues we have. So I then moved on completely from being a civil structural engineer to becoming an environmental engineer. And for me, it's that purpose, that passion to really be able to make a change in the society where I do live in. And then that has given back to myself, founding the company and ultimately wanting to make sure that Intelligent Digest will continuously use cutting-edge technology and capacity building to drive change and address most environmental issues. So that also defined the way I engage with people at Intelligent Digest and engage with people that I work with. Most importantly for me is identifying what people are passionate about and what drives them to do what they do. So if for any reason I'm engaged in an interview, I always seek to understand what motivates people, what drives people, what makes you wake up in the morning and get out of your bed and say, you know what, I'm going to go do this thing because this is why I want to do it. So without dwelling more on this history and my personal experience, I want to bring on my colleagues into this discussion. So Sarah, do you want to give a bit of background to your experience and also how you navigated through this journey?
Sure. So I run a small startup, Next Up Comedy. We're 12 people now. But in terms of hiring, we actually took on most of our staff just before the pandemic. So probably about 3-4 months before the pandemic hit. So we've been more remote than not. And we've been but prior to that, we were only about 4 people. So the hiring process was really important to us, and we pride ourselves on our culture. So I'd say finding the right team fit for our company and the right values, as you were saying, it's about sort of waking up and finding out what they're passionate about. And for a startup, we're passionate about comedy, but we're passionate about showcasing comics who might not otherwise get a platform. And I think, finding people with the similar value structure to ourselves was what was really going to be important in terms of moving the company forward. And I think when you're a small company, one bad apple can really sort of spoil the bunch. So every hire has felt really, really, really important. And I hope we carry on like that. We have our challenges, which I'm sure we'll come to. And we've hired a couple of people via Zoom who I've never yet met, which will be really interesting as the world opens back up again. But culture and the hiring thing is something that we're really, really passionate about getting right.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. Claire, do you want to touch a little bit about, your own experience around hiring people and, people you work with?
Yeah, sure. So it was great to hear, Sarah, what you were just saying about kind of, values and culture, and that being a really integral part of the hiring process, because I completely agree on that front. And at the Catapult, we were funded and set up probably early 2018. And it was a couple of people in a Regis office, and we knew that we were going to have quite a steep growth curve, over the past 3 years now. And for us, behaviors and values are so important, and as important in our hiring process as the skills and knowledge that you've got. As a team, we recognize that kind of having that diversity of thought is really, really important to innovation. And if you're looking to do things differently, you need people who are going to challenge differently and come at problems from different views of the world, really. So, for us, it's just so important that, we look at behaviours, and we don't want kind of carbon copies of our engineers. We want people who think differently, look at problems differently.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Clay, for that input here. It's always good to have this input from different perspective. And Dolores, you work in a very interesting sector, bringing manufacturing into, digitizing manufacturing in summary. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, and also tell us about, what it is for you in terms of acquiring talent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, those values that we share, I think, and obviously we're in the win-win innovation, and diversity is probably one of the key values that we share. Challenge in manufacturing is, recent numbers have been diversity in manufacturing is about 22% in manufacturing are women. The number kind of varies a little bit around there, but there's not been a lot of improvement over a period of time. So, but I grew up in manufacturing. So to me, it is my understanding, my background, although I then stepped away and I've been involved in a number of startups. So I think one of the biggest challenges, certainly for us, for our company, is we are a creative company, a technology company, but working inside a manufacturing environment. So it's having the right talent that fit both our creative and design and technology areas, but also can understand and communicate into the market that we operate as well. Whether that's from communicating a technical requirement to communicating in terms of needs and our manufacturers' values. So I do find that challenging. I find it challenging when we're finding talent to maintain that diversity, when we're also trying to appeal to a very non-diverse environment. You know, people do buy from those that they know and recognize and everything else. So we're constantly challenging that. So I suppose by that nature, our talent pool is actually, you know, we have most of our guys in our team are very challenging. You know, they will challenge things, they will bring that. So that's really important. But as someone who's a founder, I think one of the things that it'd be lovely to expand on a bit is in my first company, when I started, you know, when I was 21, 22, when we built it up, I was scared of hiring because I didn't want, and I'm scared of hiring people who are better than me. Now, this time around, you know, the company's been around sort of 7-8 years. I'm desperate to make myself redundant. You know, I want as much extraordinary talent that just eventually goes, oh yeah, you're not needed. You know, that's the plan. And that shift from kind of owning and thinking you've got it all covered, to letting go of that control and bringing more, you know, and often much better skills into the company and having the confidence to do that. So it's supporting that process, I think, is something that's really key.
Amazing, Doris. That neatly leads us really to the next discussion, which is around when did you actually identify that, you know, this is the right time for me to start bringing people on board. You know, I just can't do this all alone now. I need people. I need more brains, more hands to really take this to the next level. Do you want to carry on, Dolores?
Well, it's a constant dichotomy that you need more people when you're really busy and you're too busy to find more people. And so, and Sarah, as you were saying, you know, every hiring decision is really key. You want to really understand who they are and you want to take ownership of that. But at the same time, you've got to do the other job, which is run your business and fulfill all the multiple roles that you currently do. It's for us, we used for a growth strategy, we very much use freelance first. We did use people on a part-time. I'm a huge advocate for our mothers returning to the workplace, or even fathers returning to the workplace, that actually flexible talent from sort of 2 or 3 days a week from someone who previously had a very, you know, maybe a higher level job, but want to come and bring those skills, but not work full time. So we actually utilize that and that opportunity quite a lot. But it's a constant evolving process. But you do know, I think the most important time to hire talent is not when you don't have any sleep, you can't manage your day-to-day job at all, and everything's falling apart. So it's having someone to bring in and identify, especially as founders, help you to identify when to bring those people on. So we had a chairman, and we utilize our chairman and our investment board as well, to kind of help to identify that roadmap to bring people on as well. So it's not always us looking at just, you know, I'm exhausted now, please bring me some more people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doris, for that input and insight. Sarah, do you still remember in terms of who was the first person you brought on board, and, you know, what really made that happen?
Yeah, definitely. So we were 3 founders of our company, and we were working in a freezing cold warehouse in Bermondsey, which was infested with pigeons. And that was the beginning of our company, and it was hard going. And the time we did freelance first, actually, as well. And the time in which we brought someone on was when we found that we probably left it too late, to be fair, but we found that our deal flow and the amount we had to deliver on meant that we couldn't deliver, because we were spending so much time doing the admin and the compliance aspects of things that we couldn't actually keep up. So the first person we got was a guy called Jason, who's still with us, and he was just an incredible all-rounder, and he came on as a freelance basis. And he was able to do everything, spreadsheets, turn his hand to tech, admin, and he's just a wonderful human being. And he's grown through the company over the past 4 years and is now our data guy. So we've sort of really invested in him and his career and training. And so he's become more specialist. But at the very beginning, he was generalist, and you could literally throw him anything. And it was the best thing we'd ever done, because we were able to focus on the business instead of hurrying away in the business and absolutely exhausting ourselves. So yeah, we didn't really have a hiring strategy at the time. We probably didn't have the money for it, but it was needed, and it enabled us to level up. So yeah, Jason was an absolute win.
Amazing, Sarah. I think that completely resonate with me because getting that very early person being an all-rounder, being able to really manage the juggling of things, which happen with every startup is very, very important. So kind of connect with that completely. So thank you very much. Claire, I don't know if you have any input to that. I know that you part of the Catapult. Catapult is a big organization, but with regards to engaging people within your team, or have you had experience of, okay, really we need to bring in somebody at this point because there's a gap? What was the experience for you?
Yeah, so the challenges that Sarah and Dolores are talking about are completely real, and regardless of the size of the organization, you've got one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and you're trying to kind of get the balance right. You don't want and you can't afford to have groups of people sat around in the hope that work will appear and, kind of they're ready for it. But by the same token, you can't, there are only so many hours in the day and you can only stretch the people that you've got so far. And so kind of that, without a crystal ball, that balance is so, so difficult. And I think, it's a challenge no matter what your size of organization.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire, for that insight. I'm sure some of our listeners might also they may be working in a corporate organization and be able to take away something from that input. Really appreciate that. So I think now we've understood, at some point either it's out of serendipity or is a conscious decision to bring people on board. But then when we decide to take this next step, that we really need someone to join us and make this work and move to this next level. What are the first steps for you? What are the first things you think about? Because ultimately, we are in the women innovation discussion, and we want to make sure that we provide an equal ground for everyone, and also we want to make sure that we attract the right people. What usually comes first for you? And I know, Sarah, you did mention that it wasn't very structured for you. Was there anything you did before you would have done like, I don't think I'll do that this time because I can think better, I can plan better now, and I can structure things better?
Yeah, I think we were very lucky with that one. But now we are a lot more structured in our hiring. We put together a job description, which I recruit almost all of the team to get involved in, so that everyone knows what this person will be coming in and doing. And I think that's really important. And then in terms of the interview and the hiring, well, first is getting the word out there. And again, this is where I think Dolores mentioned she struggles in hiring diverse teams, and it's an uphill struggle for us. We're still largely white men in the company. And for every job that we advertise, probably it's less than 1 in 10 CVs are women, probably 1 in 25, 1 in 30, and not to mention anyone from any other kind of background. So it's like, it's one of our core values and it's a massive challenge. So for example, at the moment, we're trying to hire via the government Kickstart scheme, and that's bringing with it its own challenges, but we are really trying hard to get the word out there in places where we're not seeing carbon copies of ourselves, because as Claire said, it's really important, especially in comedy, which is subjective. We want our comedy to reflect everyone's sense of humour, not just the white guys who work for us. So that's really important. And then when it comes to interview, we have a 2-stage interview process. The first one is, well, actually it's 3. The first one is sort of a get to know you and just quick check of the CV. Second one, that we invite them to present on how their work matches our values. So everyone goes through the same thing, whether it's a key hire at the top or someone who's coming in to help with the admin, and it can be a big PowerPoint presentation or a list, but it's how do you fit within our values, and we give them plenty of time for that. And that tends to really give us that gut feeling of, yes, they're right, they've got it. And then the final thing might be a quick skills test. There are a few things that people worry about in our company about whether someone will be able to be really clear and concise, since we're quite short of time. And so we might do a quick skills test on a presentation or something like that. But yeah, it's those 3 stages. But I'd say the challenge is getting the word out there without paying astronomical amounts for recruitment agencies to get the diverse talent that we want.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for hinting on that. If I can go to you, Dolores, in terms of we've talked a lot about employing people that we engage with. What about executive team? How do you go about that if you need to, bring in executive team members, and what advantage does that hold for your company to have 3 executive team members work with you?
That's a really good point, because we have done that. We strengthened our executive board and our non-exec board, in fact, from a choice position. And I think the first thing is a little bit like Sarah going around and saying, we get the job description written. We had to go around and be careful that we didn't just hire into the job that none of the rest of us wanted to do. So there were lots of things that we just go, I don't want that bit and I don't want that bit, but actually hire what was best for the company. So it's separating who we are in our roles and what we're doing to what's there for the company. I noticed there was a question from the audience about HR. We actually did bring someone in very part-time to manage our HR function so that we could have a breadth of employees and most specifically work on that executive level, because while we're managing it all, it's all fun and it's all relaxed and we were having great conversations with people, we were finding that when those conversations needed to be converted into actually get us giving up control of something, which as a founder is what you're doing, an executive level, there could be some interesting things come up. So actually having a third party who's just looking at the care and concern and both the welfare but also the legalities of our staff across the board was really key. But I think that key thing is knowing that you are stepping people in to do roles that you've previously done, and there's a process by which they take ownership of it. So we very much like Sarah, we do that skills test, we do that getting to know you, but then it's really, what are you bringing? We've got a very clear roadmap to success where we want to go. So it's really, what are you going to bring to have that be the outcome? Now we answer to our shareholders, so we also have their opportunity to have their say on that, and our shareholders lack some diversity, so I always have to bring in that conversation as well. But I think it is identifying what we perhaps like doing but don't do so well, and bringing to the skills that are needed for the company, not just what would make our lives easier.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doris, and also thank you for picking on the question on the HR manager, and I hope that Ruby feel that is well addressed properly. And moving on, I just want to mention that Leona Lord did make an input, a great point, to ensure that we are not in an echo chamber and that we become aware of confirmation bias when hiring talent. I think that is in response to the comment from Sarah in terms of what the next step to recruiting is. And then moving on from there, Claire, what do you have any input around what this next step is when you decide to bring in people on board? What are the key things you need to look at, and how do you get about actioning them?
So I think for me, when you're kind of looking to start hiring, I think it's about deciding what your absolutes are, what your deal breakers are, and trying to keep those to as bare minimum as possible. We know that people will self-select or deselect based on the information that you put out there, and it's a really well-trodden kind of statistic. But we know that women won't apply for jobs unless they can do 100% of that job description. Unless they've got everything on there, they're not gonna apply. And so, for me, it's about kind of deciding what your absolutes are, deciding what you need, but kind of not narrowing down that field of of potentials, because there are so many people out there that would come at a job from so many different kind of different angles, really. So I think that for me is really key. And I think it's really interesting hearing what Sarah and Dolores have said, because one of the challenges of bringing new people in is getting the people that are already there to relinquish the control that they've had. So when you have been involved in making every single decision in an organization, it's really hard to give that up. It is a real challenge. And so involving those people, Sarah, you were saying that you kind of you get everybody's input into a role. I think that's so important, because that's how you make it work for the person when they join.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important, taking everyone along with you when you're making that decision. And more important, the absolute and deal breakers. I think that's really important, because there are some things you wouldn't be able to negotiate when it comes to the culture of the company and what those things you want to uphold in the company. So really making that relevant while you're making that decision. There's a question from Ruby, which I'll quickly ask each and every one of us to contribute to. Ruby is asking, what tools, methods you use for recruiting talent? One each, please. What tools you use for recruiting talent?
LinkedIn is probably the biggest one I use now.
Sarah?
I say for us, Twitter's been amazing, because a lot of comedy fans and wannabes who work in different fields follow us. So that's, in terms of diversity hiring, that we can get a lot of recommendations in that department. So I definitely recommend that as well.
Yeah. Claire?
I was gonna come at that from a slightly different angle, in that when we're hiring, we always do psychometric testing, and we always every candidate that gets through to our second stage has a conversation about about their behaviours, about how we can get the best out of them and how they can get the most out of us. So that's something that we make sure is part of our recruitment process, and it kind of demonstrates our commitment to that as well.
Yeah, cool. And there's a comment from Maria Van Herseki. I'm sorry if I didn't get that right, but Maria is saying it's important to consider neurodiversity in innovation businesses. And Leonora is saying imposter syndrome is something many women have to address. And I think it has come up in this discussion too. So amazing comments coming from listeners. So thank you very much for your comments. There's a question from Tanya Bakarda. So Tanya wants us to look into, when you began growing your teams, how did you find the talent to balance following your directions versus being creative? So what are the innovative? Well, let me say it again. When you begin growing your teams, how did you find the talent to balance following your directions versus being creative? Whether it's innovative enough to bring the ideas to your company? I hope you're able to get that question.
It's deeply frustrating when you want something done and you want it done in a certain way and they won't do it. And at the same time, you're going, oh, well, why don't you bring your own ideas and be creative with this? And then you're going, yeah, but I've got a fixed vision about where I want to go. And I've just given you the insight into my head. It's, at the end of the day, I mean, for us, we run a tech business and I don't deliver on the tech. So I need people who have deep understanding about the databases, who can write in code. And that talent is not necessarily going to bring innovation. It's going to bring a very specific way of working. And so I think it's assessing, you are an innovation company and you're bringing and allowing that flow of ideas, but also you've got to create an environment that the jobs that you want doing and the people that are best suited for those jobs can work in. And that's, I suppose that brings in the neurodiversity and that side of things as well. We have a very young talent base. We nurture, we've had 4 apprenticeships come through and qualify through with us, so that you're nurturing a whole different kind of level of conversation as well. And some of them have they may be brilliant talent, but they're in the apprenticeship route because something didn't fit going through a university or a typical role. So it's looking at how you can support them on an individual basis as well as the being key into the company. So it doesn't really answer the question. It just kind of shares that we're all there and we're all having those kind of conversations, and it's just being present to it and ongoingly, as you build your company, it's around the people you're building it with, and it's taking everybody with you, and that you need all the different roles and all the different ways of working, as frustrating as that can be sometimes.
Absolutely, Doris. I completely concur with you on that. It's about bringing people along and still, being able to deliver what you really want to deliver with the company, which can be quite challenging, but it's just a bit of trying to strike the balance. Sarah, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I would say that I fully understand that tension between the feeling of being a leader and feeling like you want to direct the company essentially, and then also the strong belief that the talent you've hired have great ideas that should be shared. And we have these regular team days at least once a month where we get everyone in a room, and something that we really aim for is consensus about the direction. And I think as long as everyone signs up at the beginning to the idea that none of us is as smart as all of us and everyone's got something to bring to the table, then you can build consensus around everyone's ideas, and they will listen to and respect you for yours, I've found. And at the same time, you also will then hear the really good feedback that can often be quite, can be negative. And if you allow that space where everyone's ideas are heard, as well as their reasons for not liking your idea, you build better ideas. So it's harder and better to do it that way, we found.
Yeah, I can hear you, Sarah. I think, giving people that room to express themselves, not just expecting a positive feedback, but also taking on the negative feedback, and then probably along the line being able to convince them or why yours is really the right way to go, or being able to take on board what they suggest and say, you know what, I just agree, you've got better points. So I think be the leader, ability to take that decision, to know when you think your point is the right point, or when you need to say to people, I hands off, you're right, and I'm happy for us to go with your opinion. So thank you very much, Sarah, for pointing that out. And Claire.
I think, I'm a big believer that, if you want everything done your way, then you're probably best off doing it yourself. And so, and you're never going to get very far with that. So, the word in the question was direction, and that's what it's all about. It's about setting a shared common goal that you're all working towards. I think that's where we as leaders can really, really make a difference, is by kind of, having that vision, sharing it, and getting people bought in.
Yeah, absolutely, Claire. I think there's a saying that goes this way, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go with people. So ultimately, we need to learn to work with other people. So thank you very much. And hopefully, Tanya, I hope your question is properly dealt with. You've got an amazing panel who's really addressing this question. So yeah, I think moving on from here, I would like to kind of explore what are some of the biggest challenges with recruiting that you can share with us, Claire.
So there are two big challenges for us. We work in the engineering space. One of those challenges is skills. The other is diversity. And I know it's kind of it's slightly trodden ground already this afternoon, but actually, trying to hire a diverse workforce, particularly in terms of gender, actually, is really, really difficult. So, for me, I'm a big believer in kind of, deeds, not words. So, it's important to state that you've got a commitment to diversity, but how are you showing that? So, in your job ads, are you saying things like, actually, we're open to flexible working, part-time, we can show some flexibility in that respect. In your job ads, are you putting a salary on there? Because we know that actually, women more often than not will find it harder to apply for a role where there isn't a salary, whereas, having that there is really, really beneficial. So, that's one of the biggies. And as I said, the other one for us is about skills and, finding these these unicorn skills that we're looking for.
Yeah, Claire. Sarah, do you have any challenges with recruiting, and how are you navigating them?
Ours are similar in that diversity is a massive issue. We've got the front-facing comedy platform. So there's two types of recruitment. There's our team that run the company, and then there's recruiting the comedians and who is on the platform. It's a bit like Netflix, but for live comedy. So you can imagine what we'd like it to look like. And obviously comedy is massively skewed in terms of white men. So we're fighting that fight on two fronts. And I think we're doing really well now in the comedy space, or we're getting a lot better, especially in terms of women. I mean, you'll know that if you see a panel show, there's always 3 white guys and a woman who happens to be really sexy. and that's that. And we're really trying to sort of buck against that. But within the company as well, diversity is a real challenge. And I don't think I've got the answer to it yet. Like I say, this time we're going via job centres and doing the Kickstart thing for the UK government. But we're hardly seeing any applications at all at the minute. And when we do advertise via our own channels, that's what we get. So I'd love any help, to be honest, because that is definitely our biggest challenge so far.
Great, Sarah. Sarah, just to say, Tanya is saying thank you so much for your insight and advice. So that means you dealt with her question properly. And I move on to Dolores. What was your challenges with recruiting, and how are you navigating them?
So I suppose, yes, skills and diversity is one of those key things. We've addressed a skill shortage to some extent by embracing the apprenticeship process, and we have ourselves as the founders. So, and actually the gap is that middle management skill level. So people that can bring into a small company. So you sort of have it. What's that you say? You progress to the level of your incompetence, but in a small company that shows up really powerfully. And we're trying to bringing that middle management, which we don't really want to really call it middle management, because we're a team, and I'm just as likely to do, write a press release as anyone else, etc. But bringing someone with a level of project management, ownership. But also that wants to grow, but can also nurture and support some others. I think we haven't really built the skills of nurturing talent inside of our management, and nurturing diversity inside of our management levels. Founders might have that commitment from values, and our apprenticeships do, but that's the gap for me. And we can spend more time trying to develop that. But to be honest, we have to get on with the business, and we have a commitment. We have a phrase and say we'll manage the promise, not the person. So we don't want to be micromanaging individuals, but just set that guideline and that, as you said before, that direction, and have them show up how they bring that to the table. And the young guys are brilliant at it, but that other level is just an interesting stage for us.
Thank you very much, Dolores. I think that's challenge with probably executive team and bringing them along in the journey with diversity and inclusion is something that hopefully the founders can start looking into with regards to how do we even engage with this executive team in the first place, and also how do we have codes of governance that really help to shape what's the way we want to see the company as it grows in the future. So maybe it's something worth thinking about as we grow our companies, to see, when do we need to have, codes of governance in place, so that, when we bring in executive team members, then they can see that this is really what we value so much. This is something we prioritize. And then you have this kind of top down and also bottom up approach to the whole issue around diversity and inclusion. And I think, that also builds to what Claire did mention about, being able to carry everyone along in the journey, and ensuring that the overall drive for the company or the establishment aligns with the values the company has set for themselves, and the way they also want people to see the organization and value the organization. So thank you so much, Sarah, Dolores, and Clare, for those points about the challenges. It's always, a lot of times difficult for us when it comes to issues around challenges, because ultimately these are things we struggle with. These are things we want to overcome. But the good thing is that, from the discussion, we understand that we're all going through some of these challenges. And most of our listeners too are also going through these challenges and asking the question, how do I get out of this? How do I make this work for me so that I can actually attract the base of talent and have, people working in the field that they belong to this organization and they're part of this organization. And ultimately, we may not have all the answers in this panel, but, we've got that discussion going, and, we're going to take out here and then continue that conversation. But, we want to be able to recruit diverse talent. We want to support those diverse talent to thrive in organizations and feel that they're really contributing and feel a sense of ownership as part of their engagement with the company or establishment. So thank you so much for that. And if I may move on to the next topic for discussion, it would be good to look at, what roles should we look for, so when we're trying to engage specialized skills, in what roles we will mostly be engaging specialized skills. And I'll be very biased here to talk about green jobs, because what I do is green, and I love talking about green jobs. But don't bother to look at that as a specialized skill. We have more interesting specialized skills that we can talk about. So I'll invite you, Clare, to lead us on this.
This is a really, really sort of really tricky one. So we work in the field of compound semiconductors. It is really it's really specialist. And I do a daily job of faking that I understand what it is. But I think the reality is that we're investing so heavily in a skills and talent pipeline now, because we know that actually, there are a lot of amazing people out there, but there aren't enough. So we've got people coming to us to do their PhD projects. We've got a cohort of young scholars coming in now who are doing their BEng and their MEng, and kind of we're helping them through, because we know that they're kind of we need to get them switched on to kind of how compound semiconductors be used. And one of the other things that we're doing to try and sort of combat this is providing information for teachers, for lecturers, that kind of train the trainer stuff as well. So finding those specialist people. I've spent the last 3 years doing it, and I still don't have an answer.
Well, thank you very much, Claire, for that honesty. Really appreciate that. I know it can be quite challenging with a very specialized area, and that's why ultimately we're trying to promote STEM, to get more people really studying in this area, so that we can have more pipelines go into the talent acquisition. So absolutely appreciate the challenge in actually attracting the right talent, and also when you're competing with the big companies, what can you do but trying to manage the circumstance. So thank you, Claire. Doris, do you want to go next?
Well, I mean, for us, there's two areas. One is advanced technical skills. So, we are obviously specialize in programming and data management, and that side of things is key. But also those that can kind of almost see what technology is coming next. But also domain knowledge. So we are serving the manufacturing environment. It might be someone manufacturing, doing semiconductors, or a special advanced manufacturing. It might be CNC machining, it might be additive manufacturing. We have each of those areas, and having the translation of domain knowledge into and the tech world and that key area is pretty important for us. And so finding that and nurturing that, whether that's in our sort of our partner network or directly inside of the company is pretty key.
Absolutely, Doris. And Sarah.
I think I'm not anywhere near your guys' world. So in media, the specialisms are quite different if they exist at all. So I'd say we're in a very lucky position in that we look for talent and attitude, and there's most of the things people can learn on the job and like gear towards. We have got a specialist growth person who deals with digital and advertising, and I know nothing about that, so that was important. And then in terms of like the CRM, customer relationship management side of things, again, that's something that wasn't my background, that we really wanted someone who really could hit the ground running and knew what they were doing. But we're now bringing in some young people to learn from them and learn the ropes. So I think we're lucky in that we don't work in semiconductors, and most people now can sort of operate a computer and do editing and camera work and things like that. So it doesn't feel like the specialism is the problem at the minute.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's good that you point out the CRM aspect of things. And I think also, when you talk about specialist skills, you can be looking into accountants, legal practitioners who need to come on board at some point. It's because that's a specialist area which you don't really have the skill sets to manage. But I do respect creative people, and when you're very kind of science focused, then every sense of creativity, you're just going to appreciate that. So Sarah, I think I do appreciate creative people a lot. But overall, we need to meaningfully engage with specialists like legal practitioners who are going to help us sort out most of the legal and the contracting work we need to put in place, especially when we are recruiting people, and also when we are signing up contracts and deals with different organizations. It always pays off to really get these people on board, because they're going to save us a lot in the long run, to make sure we do it them in at the early time. They can start looking at things like R&D tax relief, and also there's they make sure your VAT returns are delivered at the right time, and your end of year account is really right when it's supposed to be it's supposed to go in. So having the right people, and ultimately even your design in terms of your advertising and the wider engagement, you still need some specialists to come in at some point to drive that, especially when the company continues to grow. And Doris talked about having specialist people in terms of software developers and people that she needs to count on to deliver this platform. So it's about understanding what do you need at that point, and who do you need to bring on board to drive that. So thank you so much for those amazing contributions.
If I may, just as a it actually touches on that, the idea of imposter syndrome, and it's just occurred to me in terms of, Claire, as you said, you spend most of the time like convinced that you know what it is about semiconductors, but you don't need to know to do your job and do it really well. And I think that's one of the things that can put women off coming into sort of technical roles or technical companies, is thinking that they have to understand that before they can bring their skill set into that company. And that's, definitely not the case, where, actually bringing some creative input, bringing that, not just the creative side, so not just the marketing on the HR, but actually process management, project management. We talked a bit off air, let you into some secret, guys, about managing, childcare and stuff inside of doing your job and delivering what you need to do. Well, that ultimately we're best project managers in the world. So actually that skill is a skill that I don't think we see as a specialist skill, and it can be brought into any domain. So I think it's something we just need to kind of look for in our own companies, but also encourage in the women that we know applying and out there in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doris, for pointing that out and highlighting the fact that there are things we may not even see as specialist skills, but very much in demand in our different businesses to make it work, to make everyone really engaged and fully efficient in whatever they're delivering. So thank you very much for pointing that out. And I'll quickly invite us to, if you have any top tips for entrepreneurs who are looking to recruit, Sarah, what would that be?
Well, top tips, I'd say definitely get your potential hires to do a presentation about values. It's really important. And I'd say watch out for hiring too senior before you've got enough people to actually do the work underneath. You don't want all organ grinders.
Amazing. Yeah, it has to be distributed. Dolores, do you have any top tips?
Engage the whole team in who you're bringing in, and have them connected, even if it's where we've doubled in size over lockdown, even if it's just through Zoom. Get them connected, and even on a trial basis, to just really tech them out. Every team member works and is necessary, so make sure it works for both parties.
Cool, Dolores. Thank you for highlighting that. Claire.
So I think when you're trying to attract candidates, show off your culture, make it clear what you as an individual and you as a business is all about, so that people can choose to buy into that, and don't be afraid to hire people that think differently from you. I think that's just so important.
Cool, amazing. Thank you so much, Claire. Don't be scared to bring in people that look a bit differently. It's just important that we are able to engage with others and work with others, and be able to ensure we close the gap around diversity and inclusion. Ultimately, very important for us to do that. I think I've really enjoyed this discussion. Thank you so much to our panelists, Claire, Sarah, Dolores. The discussion has been so stimulating for me. It's been so insightful for me. I've also taken some of my notes, and as much as I've been living and breathing this, but definitely very useful contents from the discussion today. And I really appreciate your time and bringing us to rounding up this very interesting panel session. I'll be handing over to Rachel Obrike. Once again, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much for hosting today's session, Dr. Ifeyinwa Kanu. It was so stimulating. And to our fantastic panelists, Dolores, Sarah, and Claire, for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us. This was so inspiring. Thank you so much. I would also like to extend a thank you to everyone who has joined us on our online today. Our next Let's Talk About webinar is taking place on the 9th of June. Please take note of this date, where we'll be talking about the F word with Meg Zinat Wamithi. We hope you can join us. It's going to be another stimulating session. If you'd like to keep up to date with all the women in innovation news and events, please do sign up to our newsletter or visit our program page, or you can join the LinkedIn group. Once again, we really like to express a massive thank you to Dr. Ifeyinwa Kanu for hosting such a stimulating session today, and to our wonderful panelists, thank you again. And to everyone online, thank you for joining us. We really hope we'll see you again. And goodbye, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.